What if reality itself isn't random? What if it's all built on a hidden code? A kind of cosmic blueprint described in the Quran that structures, well, everything, from the universe itself right down to our own consciousness. So let's dive in and unpack this really powerful model of the universe together.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the main idea of a mirrored universe. Then we'll explore the two big opposing paths, the path of light and the path of fire. After that, we'll see where Earth fits into all this, and finally, we'll pull it all together to reveal the complete code of reality.
Okay, so the central idea from the source material is this. The universe operates as a dual caustic system. Now, that sounds complicated, but just think of it like a cosmic mirror. On one side, you have a process of creation unfolding, and on the other, you have its exact, perfect inverse, its reflection. And together, these two forces are what shape literally everything that exists.
To really get this, you have to ask a pretty fundamental question. What if the whole cosmos, the whole shebang, is basically an engine? An engine designed for one single purpose, to take unseen potential and turn it into the tangible, solid reality that we all experience. Well, according to this model, that's exactly what's happening.
So this term caustic is absolutely crucial to understand. In physics, you've actually seen this before. It's that bright, curved line of light that you see at the bottom of a coffee cup when the sun hits it. It's where light rays focus. But in this framework, it's a metaphysical focal point. It's where abstract potential gets focused and crystallizes into a definite state. It is the very moment of becoming.
All right, so with that idea of a caustic in our back pocket, let's look at the first side of that cosmic mirror. This is what's called the heaven path. You can think of it as the primary blueprint for creation, and it is all driven by light. Everything, and I mean everything, begins from what the Quran calls the Nafs. Think of this as the source code. It's a unified self, soul, a state of pure potential and complete wholeness. It's kind of like a medallion that contains all the possibilities before it's ever been split into opposites, like good and bad or right and left.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. This creation process isn't just some random event. It follows a precise, almost mathematical protocol, a 2-3-7 process. It starts with light breaking a barrier. Then that initial unity splits into two polarities, which are then processed through 3 distinct tests. And finally, it all resolves into 7 heavens. And you're going to want to remember that 2-3-7 pattern.
Here's that first split, the 2 in our 2-3-7 protocol. And what's crucial here is that the model doesn't frame this as a simple good versus evil thing. It's all about response time to a divine command. On one side, you have the angels. They represent immediate, frictionless alignment with the command. On the other side, you have Iblis, who represents a delay, a resistance born out of pride. And that single hesitation is what creates the first fundamental division in reality.
The next step, the 3, is all about 3 oscillations or tests that are meant to purify the soul. The archetype for this is the prophet Ibrahim. He faced 3 ultimate trials: his loyalty to his family and his people, his devotion, which is tested through his son, and finally, the complete and total submission of his own self. Passing these tests is what purifies potential into specific spiritual gifts.
And so, after this whole process of splitting and testing, that original unified Nafs resolves into 2 purified components. You get the Ruh, which is the command or the spirit, and mercy, which is the path of return. And it's these 2 forces together that actually form the very structure of the 7 heavens.
Okay, so you know how for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction? Now we have to look at the inverted mirror image of that first process. This is the hell path. And get this, it follows the exact same 2-3-7 structure, but it's all in reverse and it's driven by fire instead of light.
This inverted path is really defined by 2 extreme poles. On one end, you have the desire for absolute nothingness, for oblivion. This is symbolized by Miriam's cry to just be forgotten. And on the complete other end, you have the delusion of being a false everything. That's Pharaoh's arrogant pride preserved forever as a sign of the ultimate punishment. It's a choice between annihilation and self-deification. And this same polarity, this same split, it plays out right here on Earth, through the choices that we make. You can see it perfectly in the contrast between Asiya, Pharaoh's wife, who chose love and truth, even in the worst circumstances, and Pharaoh himself, whose pride was so huge that it led him to literally claim he was God. And this quote from Ibrahim just perfectly captures the absolute peak of the heaven path. That is the sound of complete, total submission to a higher truth. There's no resistance, no delay, just submission.
And then you hear the perfect inverse. In the very next breath, you get this quote from Pharaoh, and it represents the absolute bottom of the hell path. It's the ultimate submission to the ego. It's raising the self up to the level of God.
So the final outcome of this inverted path is the formation of the seven hells. It resolves into fire, or what you could call a curse. But here's a really fascinating detail in this model. Even here, mercy is still operating. It's still capable of rescuing the faithful from the very heart of this destructive process.
So we have these two giant mirrored systems of light and fire. But where do they actually meet? Well, that brings us right here, to Earth. Earth is the critical transformation zone. It's the stage for choice. The model uses this really powerful metaphor. Earth is like wood. And just think about it for a second. Wood can be nourished by light and water to grow, but it can also be totally consumed by fire. This makes it the perfect material, the perfect medium for transformation. And the master sign of this role, it's happening all around us all the time. Photosynthesis, the process of turning pure light into living matter.
Now, the more technical term for this from the source research is the buffer interface. All that really means is that this is the unique zone where timeless, unchanging rules can actually interact with our temporal, time-bound reality, and it happens through consciousness and moral choice. This is where we come in.
Okay, so we've seen the two paths, and we've seen the stage where they meet. So now, let's put it all together. Let's reveal the complete code of reality, as it's presented in this absolutely fascinating framework.
Now, this slide right here, this is basically the master key to the entire model. This is where it all clicks together, because it connects these deep spiritual concepts to the language of modern physics. It proposes a universe made of three parts. So look at that top row. The L field, that represents timeless truth, and it's seen as the spiritual equivalent of the conservation laws in physics. You know, the rules that never ever change. Then the middle row, the S field of mercy and manifestation. That maps onto thermodynamics, the laws that govern energy and the arrow of time. And finally, the B interface, our zone of choice. This is compared to quantum decoherence. Simply put, that's the idea that reality is just a wave of possibilities until a consciousness, an observer, looks at it, and that act of looking forces it to collapse into one single definite state. This model is suggesting that our choices are literally what crystallize reality.
So, to sum up the entire structure, the universe is a dual caustic system. Heaven and hell aren't just places. They are symmetrical, mirrored processes, and each one is built on that same exact 237 code we talked about, a split into 2, a processing through 3, and a final resolution into 7. And this brings us to the final and most provocative question posed by the source material. After laying out this entire cosmic blueprint, the model turns the lens directly back onto us. If reality is a text, if it's a code just waiting to be actualized by a conscious choice, then the real question isn't just about reading it or even understanding it. It's about embodying it. So the question is, when will you become the book?